Hello everyone, and welcome to a Farming Sim 22 tutorial. Today we are talking about field preparation. Now, to be clear, you don't need to do all the things I'll show in this video. All you need to do is cultivate, plant, and harvest, and that'll get you crop. This is just going to show sort of how to maximize it. And then the other thing is I won't be showing fertilizing in this video because I have a separate tutorial for that since it's so involved and there's so many options. So for fertilizing, I'll link to that tutorial in the description. So to maximize our yield, I sort of have the order of events here. And from left to right, we will mulch and we'll sort of get rid of the stubble. We will then plow. If you don't need to plow your field, then you will just need to cultivate or harrow. We then have our lime, and again, you might not need to lime. We'll talk about all that. So these two are, well, you will have to cultivate for sure, but you may not have to plow. We then have our stone picker-upper. This will pick up large stones. We then have our roller, which will push smaller stones back into the ground. And then finally, we will plant with our seeder or planter, whatever you need to plant your seeds with. And then we have our weeding, or at this stage you would then also start fertilizing your field in whatever fashion you would like. This weeder here on the right is for early stage weeding. If you catch them in time, you can use this one. If they get too long and too large, then you'll have to use a sprayer of some sort. So, mulching. Mulching takes a very long time and only adds 5% to your yield. So sort of make that decision there if it's worth your time. But you'll see there's this little stubble on the ground, and if we run over it with a mulcher, it goes away. Mulching can be found in the shop under tools and mulchers. I'm using this one because it is faster. This one is a little bit wider, but it's quite a bit slower. And then we can see the effect on our field is that it goes from a plowed state to sort of a reset blank canvas. So we will give this a little time to mulch. Alright, so we're only going to do about half the field. Again, it's very slow. So if we look at our map, we have about half of it is reset and half is still plowed. Before we move on too much further, let's go to the help menu. This is where you'll find all this info. So if we go to improving yield, you'll see up here, fertilizer twice gives you 23 per time. You have to spread lime every 3 harvests. And so today we will look at that because I have to put lime on this field. Mulcher is what we just did. That's 5%. We have to remove weeds and plow only after root crops such as corn, potato, sugar beets, and sugar cane. I also think when you start a new map, you usually have to plow the fields, but you don't have to do it every 3 times like you had to in the past games. So if we look at the map again, I did just plant corn, so we can see on crop types, here's the corn, which means we have to plow, as we just read in the help menu. If you don't need to plow, if it looks like this and there's no red, then you can just use a cultivator or a harrow or harrow, not sure how to pronounce it, one of these. It says in the help menu that if you use a disc harrow, the weeds come up faster. I did not find that to be true, or if it is true, it is like negligibly true. So keep in mind when using a disc harrow, you have less time to remove weeds as they are sprouting much faster. I tested it. Maybe it's like an hour or 2, at least in my case. I didn't notice anything. So we need to plow. So this is one of the plows, and we'll look at that in the shop here once I start. And there we go, and you'll start to see rocks are coming up from plowing. If we look here, that red is going away. If we look in the shop, you have several options. You can use a plow, which is not what I'm doing, but all those will work. You can use a subsoiler, any of these, and that's what I'm using here, is a subsoiler. Incidentally, this one will also, I think that's fertilizer. Well, you can put solid fertilizer in, or you can use a spader. All of these say it can be used instead of a plow, so lots of options. So now we will let this finish. Alright, so we just finished up here. So once again, before you plow, make sure you do check your map, your soil composition map, just to make sure you have to. Because if you don't, then you will want to cultivate instead, just because those are wider and just faster at doing this job. So now that we have plowed, we want to lime. And again, check your map. You only have to do it every 3 harvests, but it is this green color, and we do have to do that. And for that, you need a fertilizer spreader, and look for this white, like kind of salt rock looking symbol. So both these red ones do that, and then you'll go to pallets and buy lime. And there's that symbol again, and then you'll just roll up to the pallet with your spreader, and in the top left it'll say refill. So hit R or whatever your controller says to hit, and it'll refill it. So let's unfold, of course. This process is pretty quick and is very evident because you'll see this like white covering the ground. So we'll go ahead and finish this. And there we are. So just a couple passes with this small field, and now we're limed. So now we're good for 3 harvests and don't need to worry about that again. So now we have our no plowing, no lime. We haven't gotten weeds yet or fertilizer. So now we have this double tillage, and we've plowed, so we know we're ready to go. At this point, we'll want to deal with stones. So I found that we want to pick up the larger stones first, and that is with a stone picker. And these will collect stones and will save your vehicles from getting too damaged. So basically, stones will just damage your vehicles as you plant and do other things. So we want to get rid of these. So we will take some passes here. And you can see in the bottom right that we have collected about 300 stone. I'll try to show it. It might be hard to see on video. But if we, and with this lime, you can see like stones right there by my back tire. And when we roll over it, it just sort of disappears. So that is what that's doing. We won't do the whole field just for the sake of time. So that will turn it into kind of back to cultivated. So, or to cultivated. So we got tillage, cultivated, and now we want to roll it. And rolling it, the menu says, the help menu says we'll add another 5% yield, and it'll turn the map into seed bed. And this one is a pretty large one, so we gotta let it unfold. And in the menu, it is under rollers. So I have this one here. This one is about half the size, but they do the same thing, of course. And you don't turn it on or anything. You just drive over it, and we'll see it sort of change state, or we would if that lime wasn't in the way. And you'll see that the large rocks stay, but any of the smaller rocks will be pushed back into the ground. Not a lot of small rocks here. And if we look at the map, then we have gone to seed bed. So we are kind of ready. I think in my mind, that's like the sort of the goal, is getting to seed bed. This is the order I have found works best. For example, when I tried to lime before I plowed, it did not work. Like, it just wouldn't let me. So this is sort of the order I recommend. And now that we have a seed bed, you can take anything you need to plant, make sure it's the correct season, and now we have growing. And we can check here, we've limed, we've plowed, we have our wheat. So let's go ahead and finish planting this wheat. This is also where you'd probably want to apply some fertilizer at this stage. But you have quite a few months to do that in this game, so it's not a huge deal. So now let's skip ahead to kind of the next day, and we'll start dealing with weeds. Alright, so we're on the next day, and you can see we need to weed. You don't have to do this the next day, you have all season. But if you catch it early enough, you can use one of these weeders under weeder. And the nice thing about these is you don't have to buy like liquid. It's just free, and you just go over it, and you can see the weed state goes away, and it looks like this is all fine. Let me check the edge to see if this is all, you can kind of see them disappearing. And you only have to do this once for a field. So now that I've done it this one time, I never have to do it again. Fun fact about weeds, if you are starting a new field and there's fully grown weeds on it, when you cultivate the full weeds, it will give you 1 fertilizer state. So kind of a nice fun fact. If your weeds are too large, so for some reason this right side, these weeds are already too big, and you can see that we went over it, but it didn't get rid of it on the map. So what you can do is get a sprayer, and you can just go to sprayers, and any of these will work. You can see the herbicide symbol right there. This is liquid fertilizer, and you can see in the bottom right I have the herbicide in, and you just spray it, and that'll do the same thing. You just have to pay for it, and you can see them kind of turn to brown, and now we have weeded a bit of our field, and again, now we're good. So we could fertilize it again in whatever way, and you are aiming fertilizer wise for that dark blue. Again, I'll link to that my fertilizing video in the description. There's just a lot involved there. And at this point, once you have 2 fertilizer states, once you have it weeded, then all you have to do is wait for your harvest season in the calendar. So for us, we would have to wait till August because we just planted in October, and then you harvest and rinse and repeat. And of course, if you don't harvest, then the crops will wither. And here's sort of your symbols there: harvest, ready to harvest, harvested, remove foliage is for like beets and potatoes, and then of course withered. So there's sort of all your states that should maximize your yield in sort of the best order that I was able to find. And that should be it. I hope that helps. I hope you learned something. Hope you enjoyed. Like, subscribe, comment below if you have a question, and of course, have yourselves a very nice day.